X-Talks connects professionals in the life science, medical device, and food industries with useful content like webinars, job openings, articles, and virtual meetings to help you succeed in your career. This life science-focused podcast brings together some of our editorial staff to share insights into the latest B2B industry news to keep you up to date. This week on the show, we are discussing a nasal flu vaccine's FDA consideration for self-administration and a new RSV vaccine ad featuring a de-aged Wayne Gretzky. And today's episode is sponsored by Gilson. More from them later. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the X-Talks Life Science Podcast. I'm Ayesha Rashid, Senior Life Science Journalist at xtalks.com, and this week I'm joined by Sydney Perlmutter and Vera Kovacevic. Thank you for coming today. I'm going to start us off with a story about the FDA considering a self-administered version of a flu vaccine. And this is not just any kind of a flu vaccine, it is a nasal flu vaccine. So the FDA has accepted AstraZeneca's supplemental BLA for a self-administered option of its nasal influenza vaccine FluMist Quadrivalent. So FluMist has actually been in the market since 2003, and it's the only intranasal spray vaccine option against flu. Currently, only healthcare practitioners are authorized to administer FluMist. So if the FDA gives the nod for this self-administration option, this means that people 2 to 49 years of age could be self-administered FluMist by people between the ages of 18 and 49. Adults can also administer the vaccine to children between the ages of 2 and 17. And again, this is if the approval goes through. So the FDA's decision on AstraZeneca's application for this self-administered option of FluMist is anticipated in the first quarter of next year. So if the application is accepted, FluMist could be available for self-administration during the 2024 to 2025 flu season next year. And that would make it the first and only self-administered flu vaccine in the market. So the needle-free live attenuated vaccine is sprayed directly into the nose, and previous studies have shown that it has comparable effectiveness and acceptable safety to other flu vaccines. In the U.S., it's estimated that on average, 8% of the population gets sick each season from the influenza virus. That causes flu, of course, and flu can cause serious complications in certain groups of people, including young children, adults 65 years of age and older, and individuals with certain health conditions. And children 5 to 17 years of age represent 39% of acute respiratory infection medical visits, even though they only make up about 22% of the U.S. population. And this is according to AstraZeneca in a press release that was announcing the supplemental biologics license application for FluMist. And influenza has long-reaching impacts, so it impacts work and school, and according to statistics, 47% of missed school days are due to flu, and working caregivers miss 1 to 2 days of work to care for household members as well. So again, it has substantial impacts every flu season, and so it is important to protect yourself against flu. Now, in terms of AstraZeneca's FluMist and its application for a self-administered option, its application is backed by a usability study which confirmed that individuals over 18 years of age could self-administer or administer FluMist to eligible patients when given instructions for use without any additional guidance. Now, in terms of general flu vaccination, the CDC recommends that individuals 6 months of age and older get a seasonal flu vaccine every year. However, in reality, less than half of people in the U.S. get a flu vaccine, And during the 2021 to 2022 season, the CDC estimates that 50 to 74% of people in the U.S. got vaccinated against flu. Now, of course, a self-administered option of flu mist would offer great convenience and flexibility to people, which the idea is that it would help promote its usage. And so because it would be more accessible, the uptake of the flu vaccine, it's anticipated to increase. And so also, if you think about it, a lot of people actually have needle phobia. So it's estimated that about 10 to 15% of people may be needle phobic and hesitant to get vaccines. And so really trying to find ways to increase access through a needle-free version, again, could help boost uptake. So a lot of experts were talking about this, including Dr. Ayesha, who is the Dean of the Brown School of Public Health and the former White House COVID-19 response coordinator. He was saying that a self-administered flu vaccine option, again, could be even more accessible, and if it were available to buy on pharmacy shelves and things like that. Now, so despite being on the market for 20 years, I think AstraZeneca really saw an opportunity here to help increase uptake of its vaccine amid actually declining flu vaccinations, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, ironically enough. But I think companies and healthcare practitioners, I think everyone, there's a push to really bring to light the importance of flu vaccination, and I think just offering another option for something that already is pretty accessible. I mean, having a nasal spray flu vaccine, I think that's definitely accessible in itself, but now that, for the potential for people to self-administer would, again, just make things a lot more accessible. And the idea is that AstraZeneca hopes that the ease and convenience of a self-administered flu mist could attract new users to help increase overall uptake of the vaccine. If approved, flu mist would be available through an online pharmacy request system, and the vaccine would be delivered directly to people's homes in temperature-controlled packages. So sales of flu mist have been kind of up and down for the past couple of years for AstraZeneca. In 2015, sales hit $288 million. And for some reason, I couldn't really find out what exactly happened. But in 2016, the CDC actually recommended against using flu mist. So I've been trying to dig into exactly what happened there. But that was reversed, and then there were some manufacturing hiccups, and then sales hit $295 million in 2020, but then fell to $175 million last year. So again, I think flu vaccinations have been on the decline, as I mentioned, overall, and in light of that, I think introducing new options, especially a self-administration option, would definitely be beneficial here. So just wanted to get your thoughts on flu mist. And have you ever heard about it, this nasal flu vaccine? Because actually I hadn't.
No, I never heard of a nasal flu vaccine. I actually think it's quite a great idea. And there's several benefits, of course, like no needles. They can ship it directly to your home. So it seems very convenient. I never knew that there was a nose spray vaccine, basically. Mm-hmm. I know they just submitted to the FDA for consideration, but I would like to see it. I think it'd be really interesting, if they have data comparing the efficacy of the nasal vaccine versus an injected one, maybe by another sponsor.
I do think they have that data.
Yeah, just because I think I myself am wondering personally, is it as effective? Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people, especially after COVID, right? They like to compare vaccine efficacies. So I think that data would be great if they can provide that. I also personally myself would wonder if I administered it properly. Did I breathe it in? Did I spray it in the nose the right way? I think there are some, people may wonder, if they just administered it the right way, because I think lots of drugs that are self-administered, that are not a pill, there could be problems. With the way
they
it's
did
done.
conduct a usability study to assess that very concern.
Okay.
And so the study found that the efficacy was comparable to if a healthcare practitioner typically does administer this flu mist. So they did find that it was comparable, and I think the instructions were clear enough that there wasn't a concern there. So that's good to know. And I'm just looking up the efficacy for the 2023 season. So flu mist was 54% effective in preventing influenza A in people less than 65 years of age, and 71% effective in children. So that's actually average for a flu vaccine. So the average efficacy in any given season for a flu vaccine is about 60%. So it's not as great actually as the COVID vaccines that we've seen, 90% plus efficacies. So I think it's pretty average, and it is comparable to flu shots administered from other companies administered via needles. So I'm surprised we don't hear more about this. And then I was just looking up again. It was discontinued for a bit, as I mentioned, in 2016 by the CDC. Was it 2015 or 2016, did I say? Yeah, and that's because I think they found that it was ineffective in certain age groups. So so they had to look at that. And then again, in any given year, the flu shot is basically, so this is a quadrivalent vaccine, the flu mist. So every year, working in conjunction with the WHO and of course, scientists and working in the field, they look at what the trending, I guess, or the dominant strains of flu are going to be that year. So they make a prediction, and then so that vaccine for that year is targets 4 different strains of flu. And the hope is that they get it right. So in some years, they might not get it completely right. There might be, a couple of strains in there that might not be dominant that year, and there might be other strains that become dominant, so they might miss those. So that's why the efficacy is it changes every year, and they try their best to predict which strains are going to be in circulation that year and include those in the vaccine. But it's never 100%.
I was sort of reminded of the COVID testing kits when Vera, you were talking about, whether or not people would know if they administered them correctly, especially since they both had to do with sticking things in your nose. And I know that, I'm sure we've all done those COVID tests. I got to tell you, I do not have needle phobia. I would much prefer having a needle in my arm than sticking something up my nose. I hate that sensation. I'm probably not the average, I think most people would actually
I think
prefer.
everyone has different preferences.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I think any new method of, I guess.
Drug administration.
That could, get more people to take. We already have the flu shot. So that is absolutely crucial for people who are scared of needles. It also makes me wonder, why some medications or vaccines can be administered either, I guess, up your nose or orally. This is more of a question. I'm not sure if you have the answer, but how were they able to do this? Because I know previously flu shots were just shots. So what did they do to make it, be a nasal spray?
Yeah, I'm not a drug formulation scientist, so, but definitely it's about, people who work in drug formulation. I think maybe we can get somebody on the show to talk about the different modes, I guess, of administration that are possible with vaccines. And yeah, that's a good question, but I think there's definitely to do with the formulation, the stability, and all of those kinds of things that come into play when developing vaccines and how to package them, essentially. And I wonder if actually for the COVID vaccines, they were also talking about developing nasal spray versions, I remember at one point. Yeah. So definitely a possibility.
Do you think they should still be called vaccines? Because I always associate vaccines with
the needle,
a jab, but I don't know if the two are mutually exclusive.
No, I don't think that constitutes. It doesn't constitute at all.
A vaccine is something that like triggers an immune response.
Exactly.
Against like a foreign
pathogen. Yeah. So if the definition of a vaccine is that, as Vera is saying, it activates your immune system or primes your immune system to recognize a pathogen. So it gives you a small dose of a virus or a bacteria. Your immune system recognizes it, and it builds up antibodies and immune defenses against it, so that when it sees the real thing, or it sees it again in the future, of course, at a higher dose and much more like the real thing, because these vaccines usually have the virus either weakened or just giving you a part of it, a small portion of a protein of it, or giving you the mRNA of it. So you're not getting the full-fledged pathogen, but it's enough to prime your immune system to build up those defenses, so that when it sees it in the future, the real thing, the whole thing, it's going to be ready to fight it. So the route of an administration doesn't define like what a vaccine is, but that's a very interesting point, because I think it's such a common perception that a vaccine is so deeply associated with a needle, right? That's very interesting. Mm-hmm. And I think I think people take the risk a bit more seriously of having a needle rather than like a nasal spray or even a pill, like a pill. Exactly. Yeah. Even though that's sort of maybe a psychological thing. I think so.
Yeah. So maybe, this could sort of, if more vaccines could be administered in different ways, maybe it would be one less barrier for people to take them.
Yeah, that is such a good point, because there is something about people and perceptions around injecting something versus just taking something orally or up the nose, which is, it's a very psychological thing. And for some reason, if you think, they're all invasive. Yes. A needle going into your muscle, it's pretty invasive, but how is that any less invasive than sticking something up your nose or ingesting something, right? Or how is that any more invasive, a needle? But yeah, that's a very interesting point. And just having more options and route for administration, I think definitely would help in addressing some of the barriers there, whether it's needle phobia or just a perception of needles and vaccines.
Looking to save time in the lab? At Gilson, we understand the pace of scientific discovery is moving faster than ever. That's why we offer a range of automated solutions, each designed with your experiment in mind and to save you time. From sample transfer to automated pipetting with Pipette Max, Gilson has a solution for your application. Our dedicated worldwide customer support team is ready to help you get started, whether that means setting up your pre-configured system or helping you write your own methods. Gilson is here to help. We work with you to find the right solution for your application and ensure the reliability of your data. Interested in learning how automation can boost your lab's productivity? Head to go.gilson.com/automation to learn more or speak to an expert. That's go.gilson.com/automation.
Okay, great conversation there on the nasal spray version of flu vaccine. And speaking of vaccines, I want to talk about another one, and this is about RSV vaccination. So this year, as we all know, very landmark year where we had approval of not one, but 2 RSV vaccines, and they're the very first vaccines to be approved. So pretty monumental. And one of, the very first vaccine to be approved for RSV, which is respiratory syncytial virus, was from GlaxoSmithKline. So GSK's RSV was approved in May of this year. And it's only approved for adults 60 years of age and older. And I know that they're seeking approval in other age groups as well. So to kickstart its campaign, its RSV vaccination campaign this fall, GSK has been busy marketing RSV, and its latest ad campaign features Hockey Hall of Famer, hockey legend Wayne Gretzky. And so GSK has not only roped in 60-year-old Wayne Gretzky, but also a younger version of himself as well in this TV ad. So the 30-second video ad features a young AI-generated Wayne Gretzky cautioning his older self today about the dangers of RSV, particularly for older adults. So Wayne Gretzky is now 62 years old. So the ad features Wayne Gretzky looking into a mirror and seeing his younger self, specifically, again, an AI-generated 20-year-old version of himself. And in the ad, Gretzky Jr. is talking to Gretzky Sr., asking about how they did in the big leagues, to which Gretzky Sr. replied with a laugh, "We did pretty good. We did okay." And so the young Wayne Gretzky is seen advising older Wayne Gretzky that he did a good job taking care of them, but that can't stop now. And he says that RSV can not only affect kids, but it can also seriously impact older people as well. And so he's seen telling Gretzky Sr. To protect against RSV and to get your shot. So this ad is actually from GSK Canada specifically. And so, they wanted to rope in somebody who is easily recognized by Canadians and is in the age group that they were targeting as well. So Wayne Gretzky immediately came to mind, they said, and they were very pleased to partner with him on this campaign. Of course, knowing the impact that he's made on Canadians throughout his career. And it's really great to see him in an ad trying to help Canadians in other ways now. And so GSK Canada said that the creative concept comes from the idea of wishing you could give your younger self advice and flipping that on its head by featuring a conversation between Gretzky and his younger self. And so the younger self is sharing information about RSV and RSV vaccination. And GSK, again, I think one of the first ads that it launched for its RSV vaccine featured another sports legend, and that was Magic Johnson, basketball legend Magic Johnson, who was featured in the ad raising awareness about RSV. And that ad was launched right on the heels of the FDA approval of RSV. So yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts if you've seen this ad at all. And I think Vera, when I sent her the story, she's like, AI is taking over like everywhere. And it's like, yeah, you are definitely seeing it. And yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts about, have you thought about RSV vaccination, and have you heard about the approvals of the very first vaccines this year, and how that was definitely a very landmark news? And yeah, would you consider getting vaccinated against RSV, even though, of course, right now RSV is only approved for older adults, but just like with the flu and other respiratory viruses, RSV can cause serious complications in young children, older adults, people who are immunocompromised, and even in other adults. You just never know how these viruses may affect you. So just wanted to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I haven't thought about RSV vaccination because, like you said, it's only approved for older adults. I think it is something I would mention to my parents. But other than that, I haven't even heard that much about RSV. I think maybe people catch it and they think it's like the flu.
It's the flu. That's what it is. Yeah.
Like
Now,
a specific type of flu, right?
right, but it's not. It's different from influenza. So
It's
the virus
different.
that causes flu, right?
But the symptoms are similar.
They could be similar, yeah. And I think that's what it is. I think, during flu season, you have multiple respiratory viruses circulating and causing flu-like, cold-like symptoms. And I think everyone just assumed that everything is just the flu, right? Well, people were assuming that with COVID too. It's just the flu. But now you hear people, like I hear people myself saying, oh, my kid was sick or I was sick and it was RSV. So definitely.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And like now you can get tested before it was just chalked up to everything's the flu. So I think there's a lot more awareness now, like about differentiating between the different viruses, which I think is going to be definitely useful, and I think it's important. So yeah, it's strange. I think COVID did change things in the landscape of respiratory viruses. It's kind of like so I think that's why RSV was probably is being highlighted more so now.
But Ayesha, do you know how does one go about determining like if they have RSV or the influenza?
You can take a test, yeah, just like a COVID test. And like you never used to get tested for influenza either, right? So
no,
it was just a thing. Oh, it looks like a virus, okay, and that was it. You were on your way. Like you just get some rest. And well, I mean, for viruses anyway, like there's no treatment per se, and you have antivirals, but they're prescribed in certain cases. But yeah, I don't think in the past there was not much of a focus on like differentiating between different respiratory viruses, but now with COVID I think that really did change things.
I also want to talk a little bit about some logistical flaws in that commercial. While I love the idea,
AI. Let's talk about the AI.
Yeah, kind of creepy. I like with AI. I mean, I feel like I've seen a few films or TV shows in which AI has been used more for voice rather than generating like a person. But what I appreciate about this, at least, is that Wayne Gretzky is still like alive and could sign off on it, because oftentimes it's used to replicate or someone's voice who's passed away already. So at least there's no like ethical concerns with this one. Like he was alive, like he thumbs up it,
gave consent.
Exactly, he gave consent. Yes. But why would they do this whole like warning the younger self thing if this vaccine wasn't even approved for the younger demographic yet?
No, it's basically the younger self warning the older self for some reason. Usually it's like an old.
That was the twist.
The twist, yeah. Oh. Usually it's like they ask an older person what they would tell their younger self, right? But here you have the younger self telling the older self. It's flipped on its.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Had I watched the commercial, I probably wouldn't have had that question. But okay, that's okay. Then no more flaw, no more logistical flaw. But
but it is kind of, interesting unexpected. Yeah. It's like usually it's the older, people imparting wisdom and wishing they could tell their younger self stuff. But here you have the younger dude being like, did you get your vaccine?
Right. It's less of a warning and more of like awareness. You should do this.
Yeah, don't forget. Yeah, don't forget. Yeah.
What do you guys think of the choice of the spokesperson for Canada? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it was a no-brainer, and it's like cool, like they got him because, my God, like
someone besides Justin Bieber.
Yeah, I also don't think Justin Bieber
would fit the demographic.
They can make an AI older version
of him.
Yeah, that's what they.
No, I think Canada we have a plethora of like very well regarded and good reputable athletes or just people in general, and I think Wayne Gretzky like fits the bill perfectly. I think we all respect him as a country and would respect his opinion. And yes, any sort of sponsorship or commercial, like yeah, you're getting paid for it, of course, like as in anything, but he I don't know. I don't get the sense that he's just in it for the money sort of thing. I think he's not a sellout. Like I think he was an excellent choice.
I agree. And I think, you don't see, he's pretty low key. You don't see him around so much, So he doesn't come across to me as a type who's like so into, doing these things for money and all of that. So I think he, for him, the choice was, he probably had to think about it. And I think he made the choice out of something maybe that was important to him as well. And he saw something with this campaign. So yeah, I think it's definitely a great partnership to see. All right, that's the end of this week's episode of the X Talks Life Science podcast. If you liked today's show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you, everyone, and see you all next week. Bye.
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 Thanks for listening to the X Talks Life Science podcast. If you enjoyed our discussions today, please share the episode with your friends and colleagues, and be sure to subscribe in order to be notified when a new episode is released. To join in on the discussion, you can find X Talks on social media, email podcast@xtalks.com, or comment on the articles directly. Links are in the show description. Take a moment to join our community at xtalks.com to get access to everything we have to offer, including webinars, job listings, virtual meetings, articles, and more. The views and opinions expressed in the podcast are those of the speakers sharing them. They should not be taken as professional advice and do not necessarily reflect the policy or position Honeycomb Worldwide. For further information, email us at podcast@xtalks.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.